It's Monday, November 30. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. Jamaica won big at the 2020 World Travel Awards. Votes were cast by travel industry professionals and the public, with the nominee gaining the most votes in a category named as the winner. The Travel Awards is a global initiative designed to recognize, reward, and celebrate excellence in travel and tourism. Marlon Samuels has more.
The results of the 27th World Travel Awards follow a year-long search for the world's top travel, tourism, and hospitality brands. Jamaica beat out 7 other destinations, including the United States, Italy, Mexico, and Australia, to cop the award for the world's leading family destination. It was the second consecutive year that Jamaica was winning the award. Jamaica beat out 11 top destinations, including Dubai, Denmark, Portugal, Russia, and the Bahamas, to cop the award for the world-leading cruise destination. Jamaica was winning the award for the 15th straight year. This is a major plus for Jamaica as cruise line executives and industry leaders chart the course for the resumption of cruising safely and responsibly. Among the comprehensive and layered approach taken for a resumption of cruising are new guidelines. The guidelines include preventing the spread of COVID-19 on cruise ships and from cruise ships into communities. It is hoped that cruising will resume early 2021. There are plans to promote Jamaica as a supply hub. The supply hub will provide trained, certified workers and technology support. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
Science, Energy and Technology Minister Darrell Vaz says the government of Jamaica has spent $1.5 billion to provide tablets to students and teachers under the Tablets in Schools and Tablets for Teachers program. He was speaking at the recent Universal Service Fund's PEP Grant and Path Scholarship presentation ceremony at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. According to the minister, 25,000 teachers have received tablets and over 34,000 tablets have been distributed to over 700 schools island-wide. Additionally, through the USF, $700 million has been earmarked annually for the purchase of devices under the Tablets in Schools program executed by eLearning Jamaica. 28 PATH students were recipients of the USF PEP grant, which is valued at $40,000 each, and 1 student of PATH received the ICT Tertiary Scholarship. In response to continued high crimes, in particular homicides, the country will see a surge in security forces on the streets in the coming days. This also occurs as the country enters a busy commercial period of Christmas. We have more in this story from Melvin Pennant.
In recent weeks, the country has been rattled by a spate of killings. Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson said the surge is an answer to this renewed wave of violence.
Certainly, we are already in a process that has started, will continue through the weekend and certainly till the end of the year, where we will surge. We will be focusing on this violence as people who are, it seems as though people want to carry us to conditions we had 3 years ago, which we will not allow. So our responses will be such that we do not get back there. And you will be seeing those responses within the places where gangs and gangsters seem to have decided to bring that fear to communities that have been living without fear for a while. We will not allow that.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the JCF surge will be supported by a rollout of the National Reserves.
We have decided that in order to support the JCF in their effort for a surge, that we will make a full call out of the National Reserves to augment the force presence that we have in communities all across Jamaica. We have decided that we will be conducting, and I'm probably repeating what the Commissioner has already said, that we will be conducting even more dynamic operations right across Jamaica.
Mr. Holness said more security personnel will be needed to police this busy Christmas season.
And we are not only going to be focusing on prevention of murders and gang warfare, but even though this will be a muted Christmas season in terms of the level of celebrations at Christmas. Certainly, we are still expecting that there will be significant commercial activity over and beyond what happened for the rest of the year. And so we are going to ensure that spaces in which commercial activity takes place, that those spaces are also safe. We are also noticing an increase in traffic on the roads, and with that comes the usual issues of traffic management and the usual indiscipline that we have to address. And so that will also have our attention.
They were speaking at a recent groundbreaking for the reconstruction of the Mount Salem police station in St. James. The project is being carried out by a partnership between the National Security Ministry and the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JAAA. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
Cabinet has given the nod for the establishment of a steering committee for the National College for Education Leader, NCEL. Youth and Information Minister Favour Williams made the announcement at a recent post-cabinet press brief.
The committee will provide support and technical guidance for the operations of NCEL and make recommendations regarding the performance management framework of the body.
The Information Minister says the committee will serve 1 year.
NCEL was established to improve the quality of leaders and managers in education and to bring greater accountability to the role of principals in schools. NCEL provides professional development of existing principals and other leaders in the school system. It trains prospective principals as well, so as to ensure they are equipped with the requisite skills needed to effectively lead our schools.
The recent heavy rains left the island with a road repair bill of $5 billion and counting. However, some citizens are not waiting on the National Works Agency. On Saturday, the Green Glebe Citizens Association in the Red Hills area launched their Adopt a Pothole initiative. They stressed the importance of citizens doing what little they can for their immediate environs.
Right there, sir. Put them stone there, sir.
So here we have the citizens of Green Glebe fixing East Kirkland Heights pothole, not waiting on the government because we know the constraint that the government has right now. So we are doing what we can.
The initiative, they say, would go a long way in preserving infrastructure and their pockets.
So we are saying to the citizens of Jamaica, adopt a pothole, fix a pothole. If there's none exactly in front of your gate, choose the one in close proximity and help, because I'm sure it will cost less on your vehicle than it costs to just put 2 bags of cement and a couple of sand and get some guys from the community to help and patch out, because the government will not be able to fix all the roads all at once. So let's do what we can do to preserve our roads and, of course, preserve our pockets where our motor vehicles are concerned.
Earlier in the month, the East Kirkland Heights Citizens Association did a similar thing. Here now are the latest COVID-19 figures as released by the Health and Wellness Ministry.
An 87-year-old woman from Westmoreland whose death was previously under investigation has become the 257th person to succumb to the virus on the island. Over the last 24 hours, the country registered 54 new cases. Of the 10,763 overall cases, 4,139 are active. 153 persons have recovered from the virus, expanding that total to 6,219. At this time, there are 70 patients hospitalized, 11 are showing moderate symptoms, while 9 are critical. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
Director of the World Health Organization's Department of Immunization, Vaccines and Biologicals, Dr. Kate O'Brien, says it's too early to plan for herd immunity. Herd immunity, also known as population immunity, is a concept used for vaccination in which a population can be protected from a certain virus if enough people are vaccinated. Here's more in this report. Speaking at a recent WHO press brief, Dr. O'Brien said her team will have to know the ability of the developed vaccines to naturally protect against future infections.
We do want to know about whether there's a reduction in people getting infected in their nose, in their respiratory tract, even without getting disease. But also, do the vaccines change the amount of time that you're actually infected? Does it change the density of the infection? And does it change the transmissibility to another person? And those are all really important characteristics. We don't know the proportion of the population that would need to be immunized because we haven't observed that yet. But the answer to that can come from modeling studies that would that tell us under certain conditions what proportion of the population would need to be immunized. And so those modeling studies, a number of them have been done, and under a variety of conditions have concluded that somewhere around 60 to 70% of the population would need to be immune, or presumably through immunization, in order to achieve a reduction or an interruption of transmission of the virus.
Executive Director of the World Health Organization's Health Emergency Program, Dr. Michael Ryan, says the key to successful vaccination and herd immunity would be continued study of community transmission.
Because it does not spread through a community like a common linear wave. And herd immunity concepts are built around that idea, that the disease spreads evenly through the community, and then everyone's absolute risk of being infected is about the same. And then if you have lots of protected people surrounding those who are unprotected, there's a barrier, there's a firewall around someone who's not vaccinated, a firewall of vaccinated people. And therefore you can achieve control and eradication sometimes without vaccinating everybody. That's the principle, I think, of herd immunity. But what we've seen with this virus is, I won't assign it cleverness, but the virus is very opportunistic. And we've seen that the virus can spread in particular circumstances. We've seen in many clusters that only 20% of the cases go on to transmit to others, 80% don't transmit to anybody else. We've seen super spreading events, certain contexts and certain groups who mix and the disease can explode. So it may be that it will take some very clever vaccination strategies to highly target people in our society who are more likely to carry, transmit and super spread with this virus.
At least 3 coronavirus vaccines are being developed by Pfizer, Moderna and AstraZeneca, and they're on track to be authorized and deployed early next year. The UK is expected to lead the deployment with Pfizer vaccine, and frontline health workers and vulnerable patients will be the first in line. But will it help to eradicate the virus?
Vaccination will have a major impact on mortality, we hope. We hope it will have a very major impact on transmission and control. But I don't think anyone can promise eradication of this virus until we understand much more about the vaccine and much more about how the vaccines work in the real world, and until we understand much more about the details of transmission of this virus.
So while we hope that these vaccines do have over 90% efficacy, it would be wise to wait a little bit to look at the follow-up results from people in this trial. And that's why it's so important that the trials are continued, that they continue as placebo-controlled, double-blinded trials as long as possible, as long as it's ethically and practically feasible to do that, because there are a lot of questions that we still need to understand, and particularly, as I said, about duration of protection, about the impact on severe illness and on transmission of infection, and about the efficacy in different subpopulations, including the older age adults.
Meanwhile, governments are being encouraged to prepare storage facilities and transportation, which would aid in effective distribution of the vaccines.
So every country is going to have to work very hard and is going to have to innovate around systems to actually deliver vaccines that do have an ultra-cold chain. And part of the approach that many countries may take is to choose to use vaccines that require an ultra-cold chain for only certain portions of the population that need to be vaccinated. For example, using that vaccine among healthcare workers, where facilities might be the place where immunization would take place, and therefore installation of a -70 freezer would be more simple, recognizing also the need that described about the need for for electricity to be maintained in those facilities. So I think the main message is that we do have technology. There is demonstrated experience of delivering ultra-cold chain vaccines, even in some of the most difficult and remote areas. But that has also taken enormous resources to do that. So what we do need is we need a variety of vaccines that have different characteristics.
On Sunday, Dr. Dayton Campbell was elected as the new People's National Party's General Secretary. Dr. Campbell polled 147 votes to Raymond Price's 138. In the meantime, East Kingston Member of Parliament Philip Paulwell was elected the new PMP chairman. Paulwell got 153 votes to defeat Southwest St. Andrew MP Dr. Angela Brown Burke, who accumulated 133 votes. The election took place during a meeting of the People's National Party's National Executive Council and was held at Jamaica College. Oil prices fell on Monday. Gabriel Thompson fills in this and other key market details in the business report.
In Friday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 3,278 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 82 stocks, of which 45 advanced, 23 declined, and 14 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 26 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services, Caribbean Cement Company, and Caribbean Cream Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company, Barita Investments Limited, and Blue Par Group. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica, and CAC 2000 9.5% preference shares. Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial was the volume leader with 218.4 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with 4.8 million units, and Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with over 3 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Friday, November 27, ended trading at $146.98. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $112.84. The pound sterling traded for $196.37, and the euro ended trading at $178.25. Oil prices tumbled on Monday on uncertainty about whether OPEC would agree to extend large output cuts at talks this week, but vaccine hopes still kept benchmark crudes on track to rise more than a fifth in November. Brent crude futures fell 79 cents to $47.46 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slipped 70 cents to $44.83 a barrel. And that does it for the business report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
In regional news, St. Lucia's chief medical officer has warned that the island could reach 1,000 new cases in the following 2 weeks if protocols are relaxed. The announcement comes as the Christmas season approaches with an anticipated increase in socializing, which would be detrimental to the COVID-19 pandemic response. Here's more in this report.
NEMAC officials on Friday rolled out modified protocols to blunt the growing COVID-19 numbers. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar-George, speaking at a post-NEMAC meeting media conference, warned that cases could surge past 1,000 if protocols are relaxed.
And having 127 active cases in country, it means that we are still in a very critical position, and we are not in a position to yet relax the measures as we note that things are improving in country. There is a potential within the next 14 days of noting over 1,000 cases if we relax the measures or we continue to adhere to the protocols that have been recommended. From our forecasting, we predict that if we do not continue, if we don't adhere to the protocols, if we don't hold back, if we don't break the transmission rate, there is a possibility of more cases. So
No sooner had the press conference concluded came word of another 8 confirmed positive cases, comprising a diverse group of St. Lucians ranging in ages 1 to 57 years. NEMAC officials say the modified protocols will be in place for the next 2 weeks. Command Center Chair Dominic Fede says these new measures take effect on December 1st and last until December 14th. Protocol number 1, work from home where possible. Number 2, businesses must shut their doors at 9 p.m. However, separate provisions apply for essential services, construction, and manufacturing.
Birthday parties, retirement parties, wedding receptions, funeral receptions, wakes, boat rides, beach picnics, etc. However, there are some exceptions that are made for the celebration, including, if we can go to the next slide, Part B. There are some restrictions that are made for special religious rites, including christenings, weddings, funerals, will be limited to 25 individuals. So while, for example, in the case of a wedding, we're going to have the religious ceremony is not prohibited, neither is the christening nor the funeral service at the church level is being is allowed. It is prohibited for the social aspect. So
there are also modifications to the numbers allowed in churches.
The churches, we have actually reverted to an old protocol. So the change here that is necessary is where we would have had a limitation of 25 individuals, but now we're saying that we can revert to the square footage by the churches. This has been motivated because our church leaders have done a tremendous job in enforcing the protocol.
Other adjustments include recommendation number 4, no consumption of alcohol at bars, and the closure of all bars at 4 p.m. Recommendation number 5, takeaway service to be provided by restaurants and food vendors. A slight change was made to recommendation number 6 with the restrictions on all sporting activities and gyms. However, exemptions will be granted for one-on-one training for athletes involved in non-contact sports.
Especially national athletes, and we want to ensure that we don't endanger the level of performance or the success rate of our national sporting teams. Recommendation, decision number 6, special permission for face-to-face evaluations in those parts of the education system where students may have special examination preparations. We don't want to, for example, at the secondary school level, endanger the performances of our students at the CXC examinations, nor at the primary school level where students are going to be preparing for common entrance.
The approaching Christmas season rush was not lost on officials who, while working to prevent an avalanche of cases, are cognizant of the need for adjustments to facilitate certain activities.
Financial institutions which have been doing very well in terms of keeping the protocols, we anticipate breaches. So our department will be putting out a program to enforce some of this. We note the increase in sales, which generally means increased crowding in those stores. So we have to deal with a level of the population who's not adhering as before with those increased measures where people tend to go out more, people tend to shop more, people tend to go into stores, and with the reduced prices that we know that's being advertised. So the point where we are still in a very, very critical point for us. Here, we're coming into the holiday season, which is a symbol of socialization. It is very important that we keep to the measures if we are to see the gains that we want to see. We're flattening the curve and reducing our numbers.
The 2020 Christmas season could be one for the books, given the potential threat of 1,000 new cases if citizens skirt regulations and proceed as normal with ill-advised festive celebrations and imprudent socializing. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
The Energy Chamber is pleased with the progress that Trinidad and Tobago is making towards using renewable energy. Chairman Dwight Mahabir says the government's planned solar plant will create many benefits for the country. We have the details in this report.
The Energy Chamber of Trinidad and Tobago has been advocating for this country to use renewable resources to generate electricity so that we can export more of our oil and gas resources, thereby generating more revenue. Chairman Dwight Mahabir says their push is beginning to bear fruit.
I mean, the government has taken a step to announce that, it has a target of 10% of the country's power being generated by renewables, and there are advanced discussions that are taking place with the government and private sector companies, Shell, BP, and some of their subsidiaries.
The promise that 10% of this country's energy output would come from renewable resources by 2021 was made in the 2020 budget statement. Mr. Mahabir said he was pleased to see government taking action to ensure that this promise is realized.
And my understanding is they're at the stage of negotiating a power purchase agreement for a grid level and grid scale power plant, 2 plants in fact, renewable power plants, that I think are going to produce 190 megawatts. Don't quote me, but I'm not, in that vicinity. So we are taking that first step.
Mr. Mahabir outlined the benefits of this move to our electricity being generated from renewable resources.
There's value in that. It causes, you could redirect some of the gas molecules away from producing power by gas instead of producing by renewables. It creates different types of jobs, different types of companies, different types of opportunities. So maybe you could export that later in the future, regionally, and maybe even internationally. So yes, it makes absolute sense.
The 10% target for the use of renewable resources in local power generation was first set in 2015 by Finance Minister Con Imbert in his budget statement. Trinidad and Tobago currently uses approximately 150 gigawatts of power. Therefore, the target entails generating 150 megawatts of renewable power by 2021. That is enough energy to provide electricity to 30,000 households. Terry Ann Brown Campbell, TTT News.
In sports, Garth Gayle was elected president of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, the JAAA, on Sunday. A former honorary secretary of the JAAA, Gayle succeeds long-serving president Dr. Warren Blake, who did not seek re-election. In the meantime, Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport Minister Olivia Grange has congratulated the new president on his appointment. And over to cricket, West Indies lost their first T20 international against New Zealand on Saturday by 72 runs. The second and final match is slated for Monday after their 72-run loss to host New Zealand in the second T20 international on Saturday. Captain Kieran Pollard is calling on the West Indians to lift themselves and to try to salvage a win in the final game of their 3-match series. Captain Kieran Pollard blamed Saturday's loss to the indiscipline in the field and a failure to execute the game plan. Speaking to CWI Media prior to the game, Pollard spoke of the importance of execution as well as some of the challenges the team faces.
Again, we made use of what we could have, a small group that we had. And again, guys were playing cricket. Some guys weren't playing or they were just around the IPL teams. But, having said that, it is what it is. New Zealand had a couple of guys as well, in quarantine. So it's just a matter of, using your mental strength and, hopefully coming out and putting these things behind you and see what happens.
And knowing that the other group have been here and training hard, what do you think is important now that the two groups are coming together?
Again, it's just a matter of, understanding what we want to achieve. Again, we have known each other, for a long time. So it's nothing that, you talk about bonding and stuff like that. From the last squad, there's only a couple new guys, into the squad. So again, it's just a matter of, sitting down and, having that plan and hopefully, plan and remember the plans and go out and try to execute. But, having said that, we have to be wary that, guys would not have played cricket for a while. So again, we have to take it, easy in terms of, how our emotions and our reactions to things on the cricket field. But again, the basics of cricket will still apply.
And that's the news. On behalf of our production team, pleasant viewing.